Joining us this week on Territory Talk, the official podcast of the Florida Panthers from NHL Network. He is a Stanley Cup champion, great career in the National Hockey League. Kind enough to take some time out for us. We have my friend and yours, Mike Rupp, stopping by the show. Mike, first want to say thanks once again for stopping by the program today. How are you? You excited for a new season coming up here?
I'm good. Glad to be back on here with you. And I am excited. I'm excited for the new season around the corner. Listen, we all love summertime. We love the weather. We love all those things. But you start to get that itch back, and we're in that time now. Training camp's right around the corner. And, yeah, I'm getting fired up for hockey season.
Mike Rupp coming in from NHL Network. And a reminder, you can watch top 50 players right now, numbers 40 to 31 coming up Sunday at 6 Eastern, where NHL Network will continue to count down the best players in today's game. Mike was a part of that show, so we'll talk about that coming up in a little bit as well here. But, Mike, the first thing we want to get to, the last couple of weeks, we've been previewing the Atlantic Division here. How do you see things shaking out? It's been a division full of busy teams over the course of the offseason, whether it's what the Panthers have done, whether it's what Ottawa's done, Montreal. Seems like another season where you look at the Atlantic Division and there isn't going to be an easy night because obviously you still have Toronto, Tampa Bay, and those teams aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, I know. And that's the one thing that hasn't changed in that division is I still think that division is the top three or the top three. Like, I don't really see that change in any way, shape, or form. It's the Florida Panthers, it's the Tampa Bay Lightning, and it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know what order that finishes 1, 2, 3. And quite frankly, I don't think any of the teams care, right? Tampa's won, no matter if they were whatever their seed was when they were at their best in the dominant season. They got swept in the first round by the Columbus Blue Jackets. We know the Florida Panthers won the President's Trophy last year, and we know what happened in the playoffs with them. So I don't think it really matters who finishes 1, 2, or 3, except you're going to have a really tough matchup if you're 2, 3. So I think that's where it kind of comes into play. But as far as the rest of the division, that's where the biggest changes have been, and a lot of them are TBD. Like, I don't know what's going to happen here with the Boston Bruins. I don't know how their start's going to be. I don't think they're a lock for the 4th spot or even the top 3 spots even having a chance. I think that's all up in the air. I think that now you're starting to see the Ottawa Senators. You're starting to see teams like Detroit, Buffalo. They're going to be better. I don't know to what level. You're talking about, I think last year between Boston being the 4th team in that division, between them, I think Buffalo was 5th. There was like a 32-point swing or something. That's tough to make up. But I think Boston Bruins are going to come back a little bit. You can have those teams moving forward. So it'll be really interesting to see what shakes out here in this Atlantic Division, who makes the playoffs and who doesn't.
And Mike, looking at the Panthers, obviously, like you said, still a very, very good team, but a very different looking team heading into the season after the trade with Mackenzie Weegar and Jonathan Huber to go to Calgary, Matthew Tkachuk coming to the Panthers. We know about the 40-plus goals. We know about the 100-plus points. But when people look at the trade, they say the Panthers got a lot tougher. Just how much value do you put on kind of the toughness and that edge that Tkachuk's going to bring to this team?
It's what they needed. They need it, and I don't think it could just stop there, and I don't think it has. I think it's a different mindset that Matthew Tkachuk brings. But this is a team that was uber talented last year. The Panthers were one of the, if not the most talented team in the NHL. No one likes how it went down in the playoffs, right? So is this team as talented as last year? I'd say no, but they got a need here that might make them a playoff team now. You know what I mean? So you may take a step back in overall talent, but as far as building a hockey club and finding a way to fight through things, I think this team got better. And so it obviously hurts with Mackenzie Weegar, but that's the kind of the price of a trade like that. I think that he was a really big piece for this Panthers team. But I just think that this is a Florida team. The thing with Matthew Tkachuk, it's like I played with guys not necessarily like him because I think he's a rarity, but I played with guys similar. And when you go out there and you have a guy in your team that's just the way he plays, you have to be ready. You're forced to be ready every night, and you're forced to play a different style, not just from what Matthew does with over 100 points, and he's an agitator, but the way after whistles, when you're out there as a line and he's getting into it with guys, and he's jawing guys, it drags maybe the passive player into the game a little bit more, and that's a good thing. So, I think that that was a huge move. Obviously, it's one of the biggest moves. What was it? It's the biggest move we did on NHL Network. It was the first time that 200-point players were traded for each other since Wayne Gretzky and Jimmy Carson back in the day. So,
it was an NBA move. It just felt it felt not of hockey. It was crazy.
No, it's crazy. And I actually think, and I'm not trying to just a lot of times this gets thrown around loosely. I'm the first one to jump on a team that I think lost a trade. I think both teams won. Both teams got what they needed in this situation. I can't wait to see how the Panthers look with Matthew Tkachuk.
Mike Rupp joining us from NHL Network, and you hit it on the head right there. Both teams went in with a plan in mind, and both teams left that trade feeling pretty good about themselves. So it's going to be interesting to see the way that it all shakes out. But going off of that, kind of expanding, Mike, and you touched on some of this, but the Panthers already had, Radko Gudas, Ryan Lomberg, Sam Bennett, Patrick Hornquist, those kind of guys, the guys that do some of the dirty work. And you throw Matthew Tkachuk in there, just how much more difficult could that make the Panthers to play against when you have that sandpaper factor involved, and how much can that come in handy when you get into those bigger games late in the year?
It's everything. And the part too that I always found, and those guys you mentioned, I love what they bring to the Panthers. And I think that's why the Panthers were a different team last year and winning that President's Trophy. They obviously had a ton of talent, but they've gotten this element of grit over the last couple of seasons. The one thing that kind of lacked, or with those guys you mentioned, outside of Sam Bennett, none of those guys are top 6 guys, right? So it's like you need guys to put it this way. If Sasha Barkov's on this, and you want Barkov to, like, he's a all-world talent. You want him to play his game. His game is not face washing and getting into it after whistles. But when you've got Matthew on the ice potentially with him, going out there and he's taking care of those things, he's going to be that lightning rod type player where everyone's going to be focused on Matthew. Why? Because he's going to be in your face, chewing on his mouth guard, yelling at you, getting in all your players' face. So this is going to open up areas for Sasha Barkov. This is going to allow the corners to be had here by Matthew Tkachuk. I just find that having a tough, gritty player in your top 6, not just your top 6, on all 4 lines is huge, because you've got to have a blend on all 4 lines. And this was one that, you've got Sam Bennett, like you mentioned, you've got Matthew Tkachuk. I mean, those are 2 guys that can certainly be in your top 6, or if Sam Bennett at times bumps down to a line 3, and then you've got, I love Lamborghini. He's one of my favorite guys in the league to watch, just making things happen. You cannot create team toughness by adding it just to your role players at the bottom of the lineup. You need highly skilled guys to be able to and willing to play tough too, and that's what Matthew brings.
Yeah, we all love Ryan Lomberg here. Definitely a fan favorite, and a fan favorite for us as well. But Mike, I want to ask you, we talk about obviously the biggest splash, Matthew Tkachuk, but the Panthers also had to make a lot of depth signings with guys like Colin White, Rudolph Spousers. But one guy in particular, Mark Stahl, you played with him back in the day with the Rangers. Just at this stage of his career and just as a person, what do you think he's going to bring to that room in the blue line this year for the Panthers?
Stahl's is going to be great. I think he's going to be great. He's a guy. His personality is so he's a veteran. He's played in very meaningful games. He's played in Stanley Cup final. He had his years with the Rangers. I mean, that team was dialed in pretty much every year that he was a Ranger, and was a competitive team. So he knows what the playoffs looks like. But his personality inside the room is just laid back. And it's awesome, because listen, what happened with the Panthers this past year, it puts a lot of pressure on them this year. Like, they've got to find a way. Like, they are kind of entering into, to some degree, recent years of the Toronto Maple Leafs, where the regular season is not really going to matter to people, right? Like, you're not going to get judged. Like, if the Florida Panthers won the President's Trophy again this year, I think a lot of people are going to be like, well, let's see what they do in the playoffs. So that's a tough thing to navigate through in the season, is like, that the test, you're doing all this homework, and the test isn't until 5 months from now. Like, it's tough to kind of stay focused that way. Mark Stahl is just laid back. He's kind of a very sarcastic jokester in the locker room. I think that's important. And he's a wily vet. What do you need him to do? You need Mark Stahl to play limited minutes and give you quality minutes. He's going to do that. If there's an injury, or if there's a situation where, hey, Stalzy, we need you to play 20 tonight. He can certainly do that. So this is a player that is, I think, a perfect fit because of the expectations of this team.
Mike Rupp joining us here on Territory Talk. And Mike, of course, come to us from NHL Network. You can watch Top 50 Players right now, 40 to 31, Sunday at 6 Eastern, where NHL Network will continue to count down the best players in today's game. And Mike wanted to get to just a couple of notes off that list. Obviously, we're talking the top 50 players in the game, so it's star after star after star when you go down the list. But if you look at this list here, there are a couple of big names that stick out from the Atlantic Division, for example, Alex DeBrincat, Moritz Seider. But you look at this list and maybe jump 5 years into the future, you look at the crystal ball, which name on this list might be the guy that jumps the furthest up the list 5 years from now, if you had to take this group that you're going to be running down coming up on Sunday at 6 Eastern? Jack Hughes, also another guy that looks to be a star in the league for a number of years to come.
Yeah, I would probably have to go with Mo Seider in Detroit. I think what he did, I mean, he's a rarity. He's huge, right? Was he like 6'6"? He obviously won the Calder for Rookie of the Year this year. He's just going to be getting better and better, I think. And I think to already, I mean, a defense in the NHL as a young player is so difficult to kind of you can make an impact, but be in a top 50 list this early after your rookie year. I mean, you have a lot of responsibilities. He's going to get more and more in Detroit. He's going to get all the top difficult matchups for the opponent. He's got to, keep producing more and more for this team. His physical play, his physicality is awesome. Like, he loves to hit, and you got to know when Mo Seider's on the ice. So I think we're starting to see a player. Panther fans may not want to hear this, but I see some Victor Hedman in him. And we know how effective he's been in his career. That's a guy where he's already being mentioned in the top 50 list. So who knows where that would be on the top defenseman list as far as what number he would kick in at. But I'd have to assume that you give him a couple more years and that team getting better around him, maybe gets more numbers. This guy can climb the list a lot.
Yeah, I know Panthers fans are all kind of, for a couple of years now, I've been seeing the Red Wings and Stevie Y off in the distance, slowly getting better. And of course, a player like Mo Seider kind of expedites things over there. So a scary thought, but, a fun player to watch, definitely for any hockey fan. But Rupper, my last one here I wanted to ask you is, obviously, like Doug said in your intro, you've had a great career. You won the Stanley Cup. You had a huge goal in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. So I'm sure a lot of people walk up to you on the street and mention those things. But this past year, something from your past kind of came back to the surface with your time with the Dansbury Trashers, thanks to Netflix. Just what was it like having that part of your life just come back into the spotlight? Because that documentary kind of took over for a bit. We had guys in the locker room with Dansbury T-shirts on. It just felt like it was everywhere for a little bit.
Yeah, it was kind of nuts. It was, it's funny. So that was all dating back, and anybody that's watching or listening right now might not know the whole story, but it was, it was basically Slapshot meeting. What would you guys compare it to? It was like Slapshot meeting Mighty Ducks,
Sopranos?
I guess. Sopranos, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, Sopranos and Slapshot kind of coming together. And so it was during the lockout in 2005, and I got an opportunity to go somewhere to play, and I didn't realize kind of I was going just to play hockey. And then you start seeing some of the things that are going on, and you find out later on that it's Netflix reached out and wanted to make a documentary. They want to start these untold sports documentaries that they're doing, which are incredible. It doesn't stop there. I mean, they had Malice at the Palace was one of the episodes in their first release. There was an incredible amount. They got the new release that just came out recently. And it was prior pandemic. They reached out. They wanted to get together and kind of chat about it. And we did. I just sat down with them probably in 2018 or 19. And then pandemic happened, and it was just 2 years past of nothing. So I'm like, oh, it must not, maybe the funding or something has changed with this. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, man, this thing's coming out next week. And so all of a sudden, and it kind of took AJ Galante, the owner or the general manager, who was 18 at the time, part of the story. He was caught him off guard too, because it was like all of a sudden this thing was dropping. And, this has been a team that's been defunct here for a number of years, since 2006, I think. There's no team shop. There was nothing there. And all of a sudden, just things start pouring in. And this guy's doing interviews everywhere. Everyone's talk of the hockey world, not just the hockey world, like the reach of this Netflix documentary went everywhere. I mean, I had teachers that I had in elementary school that were reaching out to me. I mean, all walks of life, people I haven't talked to in 30 years that have nothing to do with hockey. It's an incredible story. So yeah, it changed a lot, I think, for AJ, and give him some attention. I mean, this was an awesome story, incredibly done here by Netflix, and it was a crazy time. And we'll have to have me on later, and we can tell some more stories about it, because there's a lot of good ones.
No, we'd love to have you back on down the road. And that's the segue, Mike, and to add one more for you here before we let you get going. But to put you on the spot, Mike Rupp, NHL Network, here with us, of course. To put you on the spot, the Florida Panthers can win the Stanley Cup this season if what happens?
They can win the Stanley Cup this year if Sergei Bobrovsky is he's got to be another level, I think, too. And I thought he's been good, but they didn't get him to be good. They got him to be great. So, and I listen, I say this with just complete and utter respect for this guy. I've seen this guy compete. I've talked to people about his commitment to excellence. It's all there. So it's staying healthy. It's, getting the right kind of support and defensive structure in front of him. I think if this guy can get back to a top tier goalie in this league, I think the sky's the limit for this team. I certainly think this team can win a Stanley Cup.
They're in that small group of teams that I would consider to be in that top tier of legitimate contenders. And I know a lot of people are excited to see what this team can put together coming up in the 22-23 season. Well, he is Mike Rupp. He joins us from NHL Network. You can watch Top 50 Players right now, 40-31, coming up Sunday at 6 Eastern, where NHL Network will continue to count down the best players in today's game. Mike, of course, will be a part of that show, so check it out. He does great work there all the time. Mike Rupp, our guest. Thanks very much, Mike, for stopping by here today on Territory Talk. And like we said there, can't wait to have you on again down the road sometime.
Awesome, fellas. Anytime, let me know. And good luck to the start of the season.
Thanks, Mike.